Welcome to lunch with my good friend Randy Wooden, and I'm Teddy Burriss, and our special guest is Sindy Martin. This is a lunch event. It's a 1-hour conversation that we bring to folks. This is about lots of things, including job search and business and community. And we're grateful that everybody shows up for that. So thanks for showing up. We're live on Facebook at the NC Wiseman Facebook page. So if you and we record this, it'll show up on YouTube. And great to have everybody. Randy, can I do the as I remember now, do the housekeeping?
Please do.
So this is a panel discussion with our special guest. Please use the chat box. I will monitor the chat box and look and see what your questions are. If you have any question for Sindy, drop it in the chat box. If you have a really profound, thought-provoking conversation or question for Randy or I, rethink it. It might be bigger than we can handle. No, drop those questions on there as well. We'll answer them as well. So thanks for joining us. Randy is going to, Jan Koba, good to see you. Randy's going to lead and play the host, and I'm going to moderate.
Sounds like a plan. First of all, admire the new backdrop. Okay?
Yes, I noticed the new backdrop.
You don't see my toaster and my refrigerator and everything else. It's a high-tech studio that I run here. So yeah, if you don't want to know what's behind the curtain, let me just tell you. But we have fun here. And again, my name is Randy Wooden. I run our Goodwill Professional Center here in Winston. And when we would meet in person, every month we would have a group event, whether a mock interview event, maybe panel discussion, resource access fair, that kind of thing. And whether we have the access fair or the interview, mock interview, the one constant is on our program today. Sindy Martin has been with us for a good number of years and helps us every month with these events. And she talks a lot about presentation skills. It's one thing to have a nice resume. It's another thing to have the proper hard skills, but how you convey your value, your appearance, and so much of what I'll call the soft skills and that subjectivity that comes into play can help separate you from somebody else. And so I was thrilled to have a chance to have Sindy on our show today. And Sindy, welcome. And I hope you're doing well and safe, and looks like you're at home too, right?
Oh yeah, I'm at home too.
Well, Sindy founded Smartin International. And how long ago was that? You've been in this business for a good number of years now, haven't you?
14 years.
Wow, 14, okay. I've known you for some time, and something that we'll get to, but you have to wait till the end of the show. And that is the very first time you and I met, our first lunch date. And here I am across the table from, the etiquette guru. So I try not to do a lot of that and blow my nose in the napkin and some of those things. But anyway, we got done, and I said, hey, Sindy, how did I do? And she said, Randy, there was one thing that stood out, one thing that I wanted to bring to your attention. And so before we leave today, we're going to get to that. We'll talk about what that was. So you got to stick around for that. But Sindy, let me ask you this. You've got a passion for this, and it is evident. It's obvious for anybody that spends 10 seconds with you. What got you started on this path toward etiquette, professionalism, presentation skills?
I'm glad you asked. First of all, I'm the daughter of a military officer. So from the age of 3, we were taught how to use all of the different utensils. We were expected, as going to to dinners with officers and generals, that we girls had to be very, very well mannered and know how to use the plethora of utensils. And so it was already inbred. In addition to that, I went to finishing school in London. It just so happened that we were stationed in England, and my mother sent me to finishing school and on Bond Street with the Royals. So that put a bit in there. And then while working in corporate America, we had a conference, and I invited a speaker friend of mine, a Toastmaster, to come and do a program for us. I had recommended her. And what was it on? Etiquette. And I was the proctor in her session. I went, I can do this all day long.
Perfect.
So I got together with her and she actually helped me. I went to the same school that she went to get updated on American business etiquette, because regardless of what industry we're in, we've got to stay abreast of the changes that go on.
We do.
That is what I started launching my company while I was at that company that I was working for, because I went to colleges and universities and students need etiquette.
They do. And I'm still working on how to spell it, but hopefully you'll help me with that. Etiquette's important though. And maybe this because just I'm an old guy and I grew up in the same generation with both of you, and we were taught how to behave or how we should behave. And I think we've seen a change in how our society is operating in terms of formality and so forth. And so maybe depending on how you were raised or your age, you may not place the emphasis as heavily on etiquette and professionalism. Could you speak to, I guess, the real value? Why is that? Why should we care? I mean, it doesn't define me. I am what I am. Why should I care about this etiquette and presentation still?
Gosh, I hear that all the time. What does it matter? I am who I am. I'm gonna be the way that I am, no problem. Well, what happens in the world of business, they see it, they may not say anything, but it influences their decision. It amazed me as I went through my corporate life, the things that I was invited to that my manager was not. And it was because they knew that I knew how to network, I knew how to mingle, I knew how to eat properly. And so it gave me advantage.
It really would. And the job hunt is competitive. I think we all know that. And sometimes that just one little tweak, the one little difference maker that you can provide, that could put you over the top. And especially now that we're in these COVID times, when there are a whole lot more bodies chasing a whole lot fewer jobs, I think now it even has more importance, doesn't it?
It does. It does. It's the one thing that can put you above, because you can both have the same skills, same background, everything looks great, but this person has the etiquette from the minute they walk in the door, and it gives them that edge.
So, Randy, slide into the conversation when you're ready about the and put this in front of Sindy when ready, the conversation about the best way to high five somebody in business or a handshake. When you're ready.
I'll tell you, I'm a high-tech kind of guy, all right? So this is all written out right here. Okay? And just to I'm going to give you a little teaser about what's coming up to include that, because we're on top of things here. But we're going to ask questions about, do you want to be remembered or be memorable? How do you enter a room if you're wearing a mask? How does that change things?
Okay.
Talk about business cards and how to hand a business card to someone, when to do it, what to do when you receive it, when should you put it away, and how to handle those cards. We see this all over the map, and we want to make sure everybody's on the same page with that. The handshakes or the non-handshakes or the high fives or this or that or whatever, now that the whole COVID thing is here, how has that changed how we interact with people face to face? We'll also talk about FORM, F-O-R-M. It's an acronym to help you with small talk. A lot of people are undecided about how to do that, and they don't like doing it. So Sindy will offer a nice guideline on that. And we'll talk about, is professionalism really a requirement, or is it more of an asset? Which one should it be? Should it be both, either, whatever? And we'll also take your questions. And I know my fellow germaphobe, well, no, she's not a germaphobe. She is germ aware, I think. Is that the right? I think she's a germ pragmatist or whatever. But my coworker, Susan.
Realist.
Germ realist. Oh, that's right. She's a germ realist. This whole shaking hands, there's nobody in America that's going to be more pleased if handshaking goes away than my colleague Susan. So those are some things we're going to cover.
Okay.
And let's jump right into that one about the handshake thing, because I'm curious, if I don't shake your hand, how do we gesture with each other?
Right now, the one that I have used with me the most often is to bump elbows.
Okay.
Is to truly touch elbows with somebody. And then the other is to touch somebody's foot, to lift your foot, to touch somebody else's foot, to put your hand over your heart, or the namaste.
Namaste.
And it's a bow of your head. When we shake hands, whether you realize it or not, you actually lift up your eyebrows. And it's a facial gesture of acknowledgement. So when we're doing it another way, we need to bow our head, and we're showing politeness to the other person. So you can simply put your hand over your heart and bow, put your hands together and bow, elbows or feet.
I don't know if I could handle the feet thing. That I might stumble, and especially, Cindy, if you're in heels, that could be a challenge too to throw a
That's
leg
true.
up.
That's why I say the elbow is the most important. But
Randy, you need to watch more TikTok videos, and you'll get that foot dance figured out.
I could. And others do the fist bump. I started doing the elbow bump maybe a year or two ago. See, I'm a trendsetter, Teddy. I don't know whether you knew that.
I know you are, buddy.
I'm on the leading edge. I'm always open to the latest and greatest things.
I know you are in your mind, buddy. Cindy?
But the fist bump is your hand touching their hand. And that's not a good one to do right now. You can offend someone by extending your hand, because that's hand touching hand. The elbow's different. The hand, we always touch our face. I don't know how many of you have had your mask on and you go to drink something with your mask on, or you go to touch your mouth. I am one of those people that typically licks my finger to go through papers.
Oh, yeah. And
I find myself touching my mask.
You go to the store and you're trying to buy some fruit or vegetables, and they've got the plastic bags that you don't dare lick them because they'll tackle you. So
that's right.
I actually, the other day I was in, we won't name the store, but it ends with a T and starts with a W. And I was in there and I was going to buy some produce, but for the life of me, I couldn't get the bag apart. And I didn't dare pull my mask down and lick my finger into it for fear that, somebody would tackle me. So I just walked away. I mean, I couldn't deal with it.
Rub them together. The friction.
I tried that. I don't have
the customer service button. Press the customer service button and ask them to do it for you.
Half an hour later, I'd be, still waiting for it. So those are all things to consider. What if somebody offers to shake your hand? How do you
put your hand over your heart and say, "It's such a pleasure to meet you"? Got it. Do not shake your hand.
I actually remember the very last person. Well, no, yes, I do. I shook somebody's hand just the other day, but I was going to say, I remember it was at Goodwill probably 3 months ago. That was the last handshake in business that I had. And, I went for the sanitizer right away. So whatever. All right. So let's get back on this thing. What does this mean do you want to be remembered or memorable? What do you mean there?
Well, they might remember you. Yeah, I remember meeting with them. Or is it, man, you have to meet Randy. He is amazing. He is so quick-witted. That's being memorable.
So better to be memorable in a good way.
And just remembered.
In a good way. And I think that's kind of the key here. All right. And I've seen you talk many times, so I think I know where you're headed with this, but there's a change now with a mask on. This entering a room, what's the protocol for entering a room now that we're all covered up?
Let's talk about the cover up, okay? Yeah. Because are we going to be wearing something that's loud and people have all different ones. I've seen Wonder Woman, and I saw who was it? The Pink Bunny the other day, and I saw Peppa the Pig. Yeah. And that's not a good look when you're going to interview, okay? Let's say that you actually have been physically invited in.
Yeah.
If you do, it's just like our purses or our portfolios. solid colored, a solid colored mask, not something that has a lot of other stuff on it. And the thing is, if you walk into their building, have a mask on. If you don't have a mask on, you're going to make a bad impression from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
You're one of those people driving up the numbers right now. So we want to make sure that we do that.
Yeah.
But the other thing is how we walk into that room. There's 3 different ways. You've heard me say it before: the duck, the elephant, or the mouse. Do you walk in the room, shoulders back, big old smile, I'm here, the interview can begin? Or
Right on. There you go.
Are you the elephant and you've got a whole stack of papers that are all this, I've got that somewhere, because we're showing right away that we are disorganized.
Mm-hmm.
Or are we the mouse? Are we so shy and we creep in and we barely look at the person in the eye? None of those are a good way to present yourself. So how do we present ourselves? Shoulders back, pleasant look on our face. And then when we greet the person, we use a big smile. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they're going to jump to a conclusion about us that we don't want them to. But wear your mask unless someone says to you, it's okay to remove your mask. Make sure you're 6 feet away from the person for your own health. And it's a sign of respect. I think a lot of people right now don't realize that. Wearing a mask right now is a sign of respect for the other people around you. If you don't do it, you are disrespecting another human being.
And it's important to keep in mind too that if you are wearing a mask, that your smile needs to be genuine, and that means that you can see it in your eyes, because they can't see this.
We can always tell.
Yeah, that's not a smile. Yeah.
We can always tell if it's a fake smile. A fake smile is and it doesn't move our eyes. But remember that our eyebrows are expressive too. You can always, with a mask on, raise your eyebrows and open your eyes and nod your head. Those 3 movements together, did it just yesterday to somebody that also had their mask on. And it was a way for us to say hello to each other. Yeah.
Another good point, and we hadn't talked this in the pre-show part, but we talk often, at least I do anyway, about 55% of body language, of interpersonal communication is body language. 55, about 38 is your
appearance and body language.
Yeah, and 38 is tone of voice, 7% is your actual wording. And so this whole presentation piece, too often I know my clients, and Teddy, I'm sure you're probably in the same boat, they get so fixated on saying, gee, if I only had a good resume, I'd be all set.
Right.
But the great majority of the process, the interview, the networking, everything else is knowing, liking, and trusting somebody. And when you're face to face with them, the words are only a small part of that. And so that's why what you talk about is so valuable. And I wish more people would take it to heart and really try to implement this. Let's move on to, unless Teddy, do you have any?
So Inez threw out an idea, and she says it's not so relevant to her, but what should an interviewee who wears lipstick, how should they deal with that when they're wearing a mask?
That is so funny, because the other day, before I went into a store, I put my lipstick on and they put my mask on, and I thought, what am I doing? But you do need, a woman does need to wear lipstick before an interview. And so we know if we're sitting there with it on that, mine are loose enough that when I do put lipstick on, it didn't get on the inside and it didn't smear on my face either. So I think the trick there is having a loose enough mask around your face that it wouldn't mess up your lipstick. But to have solid plain lips without any color on it at all is typically not good for a woman's persona.
Yeah, and that gets into a whole other part of this, and that is, I guess, the overdoing of cologne, perfume. Could you speak to that a little bit about the distractions that can cause?
Are you going to complain about that with me again, Randy?
Listen, Teddy, the last time we were in the elevator, I almost fainted. So.
And I also changed my shirt again this week too, just to let you know, because Cindy was here. So that's 2 weeks in a row that I have actually put on a clean shirt. So
I'll make sure the bonus check shows up in time.
Good. Thank you. My agent will
So what happens in our world today, so many of our products have different smells to them. So our deodorant has one smell, our mouthwash has another smell, our cologne or perfume has another smell, our shampoo has a different smell. All of these smells come together, and then what do we smell like?
Woo,
sometimes not so good. Sometimes we'll wish we had a gas mask instead of a regular mask, right?
Sure.
So we have to be aware of the different smells we put on our body. But when you're going on an interview, it is really best not to wear perfume or cologne. You never know if somebody's allergic to it. And you certainly wouldn't want your interviewer to be crying because of the smell from your cologne. And we don't want to overdo our makeup. That can send a bad message as well. We want it to enhance our features, not detract from our features. Men should make sure that their beards and mustaches are trimmed neatly. And yes, men can wear beards. It's perfectly fine in this day and age. It used to not be, but it is now. And
I think the word is, I think the word is men may wear a beard, not can.
Okay, may.
Because some of them can't.
That is true. My husband is one of those.
I need to apply some powder, I think right here.
I'm sorry, Cindy.
My glow. So yeah, so don't be a distractor. Don't distract from your message. I think that's what you would try to convey. And when in doubt, leave it out. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you don't want to wear really loud earrings, and certainly ones that don't clink. Smaller is better. If you wear a necklace, just make sure that it's not dramatic or makes any noise. Any kind of bracelets that make noise. Nowadays, the really pretty metal cuffs are coming in. So if you like wearing a bracelet, that's the better kind to wear. But we want to go on the lighter side instead of the heavier side. And certainly no piercings. I know that people are sensitive about piercings and tattoos because they have their reasons for them. But this can be a generational thing. And if you're interviewing with someone that's a baby boomer or older, they just have a completely different outlook on it. It's fine for you to have tattoos. Just make sure that they're not seen during the interview. Now, how people dress, you may see people in that corporation that dress showing their tattoos and everything else, but you got to get through the interview first. So cover them up. There's plenty of covers out there. And with the piercings, any nose piercings, mouth piercings, eyebrow piercings, do not. Just take them out for the interview. Yes, Teddy.
And I'm going to try to find a business card here because we're going to ask Cindy about business cards coming up in just a moment. I think I may have one over here, so I'm going to grab it.
Cindy, here's a question come up. So from a lady named Lisa, and she says, do you think we still need to wear a suit for a professional position?
A jacket makes a huge difference. If I were to put on a jacket right now, it would make a complete difference than just wearing a short-sleeved shirt. It steps it up. And even though they say to you, oh, dress casual, step it up. And one of the ways you can step it up is to wear a jacket over it. Now, do you need to wear a suit, meaning that the jacket matches the pants? A woman can wear a colored top and a jacket and pants that match, or a skirt and a jacket that match. And a man, it's always best to wear a jacket with what you have on.
Mm-hmm. I learned a long time ago, I don't know who told me this, someone obviously smarter than me, said, dress for the position above where you are or where you want to be.
Absolutely. There's been so many interviews, and I know Randy could speak to this for days, where somebody goes in for one position, but they make such an impression that they go, you know, we have this other position.
Mm-hmm.
And they see in talking to you that you really would be the person. And they will ask you right then and there, do you have enough time? I'd really like you to meet Mr. So-and-so and Miss So-and-so while you're here. And you need to be ready to go do that.
Mm-hmm. Business card time.
Yeah.
Hey, do you have a business card? Cindy, do you have a card with you? This is good because we're here.
How many do you want, Randy?
Pick a card, any card. I got a million of them. All right. So how many times have we been to a professional social event where Teddy, hi, how are you? Do you have a card? Can I have your card? And, oh, great. Thanks. And we talk for a minute and then I walk away. Has that ever happened to us? And so that's not what we want to do. And so Cindy is going to illustrate the proper technique for business card interaction.
Well, let me throw out the other variation that I've seen. I know
Right.
you two have seen this, and I don't carry a wallet, but I've seen them where they open their wallet and they tuck it in their wallet. Like, why are you sticking me in your wallet? Cindy, what's a better way of doing that?
First of all, we don't stick it anywhere. As soon as somebody hands you a business card, you do three things. Number one.
First off, when do you ask for it and how do you hand it?
Okay. First of all, have a reason why you want it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If you're going to ask someone for their card, you say, may I get one of your business cards? I'd really like to follow up with you.
Okay.
Or I have some more things that I'd like to talk to you about. Or I wanted to get your opinion on something, so that they're looking forward to you contacting them and they want to give it to you. If we just say, can I have your card? Our first thought is, what for? I don't even know you yet. What are you going to do with it? So we want to be polite about it, give a reason. So always have a reason for giving the card. The other is make sure the card is facing the person so that they don't have to take it and turn it around. I've been at networking groups and they're passing them out like they're dealing a deck of cards. Make sure that it's facing the person. And then your three things happen. Number one, look at the card. Look at it. Point to something. Number two, point to something. Number three, ask a question. Oh, I love your logo. Did you design that yourself? Anything. And then this card's going to stay in your hand until one of two things happens. The conversation is ended, or you simply say, I'm going to put your card away. I don't want to lose it. But you're not going to open your wallet and shove it in there. And women, you're not going to take your purse and shove it down into the depths, never to be seen again. We are going to have something that they see us put it in with respect, preferably a business card case.
Interesting. So
as well.
looking at,
One of the other things, though, that's happening now, especially in this day, they don't want it. What they want to do is, do you mind if I snap a picture of it and put it into my app, my business card app, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If you do that, okay, you say, oh, thanks, click. Same three rules apply. Look at it. Point to something. Ask a question. Otherwise, you're not respecting them. So you can snap it without ever even touching it, but you still need to respect the information that they're sharing with you.
You give them back the card then after that?
I didn't touch it at all. They held it. I took a picture of it.
Okay, they held. Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Because
A
you don't
trick. I learned a new trick the other day on a Zoom meeting. You want to connect with people on LinkedIn, learn how to use the LinkedIn app, learn how to go find your QR code and just show it on the screen, and they can scan that with their, more often than not, they can, she did it live. She scanned it with her app and connected immediately. No transfer of business cards at all.
Yep, I've done that too.
Very interesting how things change over the years.
And they're changing more because we'll get to the point where we can just tap each other's phones and get it.
Wow. Can't touch you though.
Yeah.
Can't shake your
I
hand.
I like what you
But I
said.
can touch your phone.
I like what you said. Have a purpose
Yeah.
for asking for that business card.
Absolutely.
Meaningful. I call it mutually beneficial purpose.
Absolutely.
Hey, we're halfway through today's program. Sindy Martin with, well, what do you have there, Teddy?
Not just collect them in a bucket.
Sindy is with Smartin International. She founded that some years back. Lifelong learner in terms of etiquette, professionalism from childhood up through present day. And so she's our go-to person anytime we have etiquette. And I have tons of them because I have a lot to learn. But Sindy has been very patient and gracious over the years. So Sindy has joined us to talk more about presentation skills, how to present yourself during the interview. So this acronym of, Teddy, do you want to get into something?
One point. Just remember, if you have any questions, use the chat box so I can get your question to Sindy as I'm reading from Sandy. And I have a question when you're ready. But go ahead, Brandy. I'll come back to you.
Well, it's the acronym of FORM, F-O-R-M, when it comes to small talk. And I'll tell you that a lot of folks, the three of us probably aren't as concerned about it because we mix pretty well. But a lot of people are it feels awkward, this small talk. How do you engage in small talk? So I think you've got a formula that can help people.
Listen, I have spoken to so many different industries and have actually been in the position where I have to remind myself to use form to have conversations with people. I'll never forget doing the keynote for the Aggregates Association, which is quarries, right? The rock quarries. And so these were all the people that are associated with that, and I felt a little nervous about that for a little bit. So I used my acronym FORM. The F stands for family, and by family we don't mean where were you born and all of that, because we really don't want to know that. But it's more like, oh, have you always lived in North Carolina? Where are you from originally? That type of thing. But you're going to keep it high surface. So when I say family, it's not, the nitty gritty or any of those past stories. We don't need to talk about those, but current, because I love to talk about the fact that my aunt ran away with Machine Gun Kelly and killed my Uncle Charlie. And that's a whole story, but I don't just say that to anybody. So
Another show.
The O stands for organizations. Does your industry have an organization that you belong to? With the aggregates, they actually do. They have, almost everybody has an association, right?
Yeah.
I belong to NSA, I belong to Toastmasters, I belong to the etiquette organization, I do training organizations. So there's a chance, especially if they're a business person, and that they are part of an organization. Mm-hmm. The other is recreation. What do you do for fun? We used to be able to talk about football and baseball and all the sports that I miss so desperately. And golf is back. But recreation, what do you like to do? I'm doing a lot of walks on the parkway now. I'm going out to some of the different gardens and looking at them, anything that's outside right now. So what do you do for relaxation, for fun? The M stands for motivation. Mm-hmm. And motivation, it's what got you into this? Randy asked me at the beginning of this, what got you into teaching professionalism and etiquette? Well, I grew up with it. What motivated you? Well, I knew it by heart already. I just needed to add some new stuff to it. And so it's what got you into this? Because people love to share that story, and there's usually a real good story behind it. That's like Teddy, because Teddy and I met when he was in IT and I was in IT, and then now look at where we are. So you just never know what stories that's going to bring up. So to recap, form, we want to use proper form when networking, and that is family, organizations, recreation, and motivation.
That ought to get the conversation started anyway. So let's take it. Teddy, you have a question.
Here's, Steve wants to know this. So in these conversations, and we're networking and we're meeting people about job opportunities, or even in an interview, should we discuss the pandemic?
Ooh. Right now, the pandemic can get political. And one of the things that we know is to not talk politics, politics and religion, right?
Yep.
So we have to be very careful. If you were to talk about that, you're going to keep it high surface. Because if you launch into, well, if they had done this then, you are going to be showing your cards, and it may be the opposite of that person. So not a good subject.
Yeah, and the same for anything in the news as well. So, and that's good. So when you talk about high level, what if they say, so what are your views on, other than just saying it's in the news? I mean, how do you deflect that?
I'm going to say, my family and I have been so careful. We wear our masks when we go out. We have really limited. We haven't had contact with our external family, just, our immediate tiny get together. We haven't had any family get togethers. I sure miss that. I miss being able to see my family. That's showing you as a person, you care about your family, you care about other people. So we have to remember what's the bigger message that we're conveying when we're answering that simple question.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that comes up, and you've talked this in the past, and I'm making this up as I go because I'm not sure. I'm going to use the word mirroring, but I know you've talked about observing the interviewer and everything from their body language to their rate of speech and so forth. Could you speak to that? And do you call it mirroring or imitating, or what do you call that?
It's parroting or imitating. It's what you're doing is using like words, like gestures, like movements of the person that you're speaking to. And what that does is we like people that are like us. So if they're using some of the same language that we use, not the 4-letter kind, but we're using some of the same language, the same gestures. If somebody says, oh, well, I've got to go, when I leave here, I've got to go pick up my child. Oh, I have to go pick up my whatever too. So I'm using that same hand gesture as the person, and it really makes you start connecting. That is how we can connect with someone more quickly. Even in the first 30 seconds of meeting someone, if we're using those same things.
Yeah. Very interesting. So being aware not of just the words you're saying, but of the gestures and the inflection in your voice. So those are all important areas. Is there another question, Teddy? Did I see that?
So, Randy, may I share that with you? Inez just validated that, I think, we can say that for many of us, if we're doing this correctly, we've communicated even more than we had before, because we're able to communicate with Zoom and FaceTime and other virtual ways of communicating. For me, it's been truly been a blessing for me to do what I do virtually, because I'll give you an example. I could have simply responded back to 2 people this morning with an email. Oh yeah, blah, 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 send. No, when she sent me the email, the 2 different women sent me emails, her business associates, on the phone. And I get this. I hear this, Teddy, thank you very much for calling. So I think that's important for us to think about doing. The phrase is, and you'll hear more about this in time coming, it's not going to get better, kids, so we need to.
Yeah, that's right. But I also noticed that Inez says that masks have become very political. Yes, they have. However, the tides are turning. with us increasing, especially here in North Carolina, with the daily counts going so high. And they have just put out on npr.org, they put out a brand new map that you can actually hoover over and see how your county, your very county that you live in, is doing. And so we're seeing more of the people that were saying don't wear masks are starting to say, yes, do wear masks. We've had such conflicting information, and I think that we're all getting on board now with what needs to be done. We need to, the states that are in really great shape right now are wearing their mask, staying 6 feet apart, not going out unless they absolutely have to, and absolutely washing their hands.
It's too easy for us, especially on social media, to make everything political, including my biscuits and gravy that I had this morning. So we got to really be purposeful. Got to be purposeful about not letting everything become political. Anyway, go ahead.
Kind of rapid fire here. A couple thoughts on some generational stuff. I want to talk about how to deal with the millennial issue, and because a lot of our viewers are in their 40s and up. But a thought, and Teddy just hit on that. When you talk about presentation skills, professionalism, speak, if you would, briefly about your social media presence and the fact that companies actually do look at that and perhaps may use that as a reason to hire or not hire.
The generational part of it?
Well, no, just, I mean, don't be a jerk, I guess is part of, you talk about avoid the politics, religion, and avoid a lot of that, because at some point, and I'm putting words in your mouth here, but at some point the employer in that hiring process will probably look at your social media.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that becomes part of you. It becomes part of you just as much as tats, piercings, the jacket, the cologne, and everything else. So social media, yes, still important, right?
It is. And I'm guilty. I'm guilty. Everybody, I mean, sometimes we do have to be careful, but sometimes when you get so mad that people are making situations worse, it takes its toll. But understand that there are, even generationally, don't think they're not going to your TikTok account for the younger people, because, oh my goodness, every time a new one comes out, they're putting it on the list of things to check.
Yeah, when I first thought that, I saw that, it's been a few months ago or whatever, I thought it was tic-tac-toe, and I thought, wait a minute, is that some new?
Why didn't you call me, buddy?
I was going to email you. I'm sorry, but all right. So let's talk generational stuff here. What are some tips for that millennial, that young person entering the workforce? Some things that perhaps an older fellow like me might look at and go, is this guy really a fit for us? You mentioned the tats and the piercings. Any other tips for the young person that maybe we've got folks with children coming out of college now? What are some things you can share?
The biggest thing is the way that they're dressing, because they do dress so casually and they feel it's okay in their group, but it's not okay when you get in front of people. You've got to show that you are serious about wanting this position, and that's what it boils down to, is showing that air of respect, and that you just truly want it. And for the more youthful people, oh my gosh, they're so smart. They are so bright. They have such a way with technology that they actually can find things out and know things more than we do. They will come to that interview, which I wish more of them would, totally prepared to talk about all the things that company has done, because that's a good thing to ask. It's to say, I see where you won an award in helping with the cleanup of the oceans. I am so enamored with that about your company. I think that's wonderful. I want to work for a company that cares about the environment. And they are very social conscious. So doing their homework and finding out things like that, that's the way to make the impression.
Yeah. All right, let's flip it now. So somebody like me walks in as the candidate.
Right.
And I'm being interviewed by it could be a millennial, it could be somebody in their 30s or 40s or whatever. But they're looking at me, I'm a dinosaur, I'm set in my ways, I haven't kept up with technology, I'm tired, I don't want to work a long time, I don't want to work very hard, I just want to cruise into retirement.
This is all hypothetical, right, Randy?
Yeah, actually, I'm asking for a friend here, Cindy.
Okay,
so,
I just
so you
checked
know,
with them.
just so you know. And beyond that, get off my lawn, you snotty little kids. And so that, I know it's a big stereotype, and I say that facetiously, but I mean, there's a grain of truth to that, especially about, hey, is this guy going to mix well in our intergenerational workplace? That's huge. And I know you've given talks about how older workers can help to bridge that gap or that concern employers may have during the interview process. Could you speak to how people like me can address that issue?
First of all, everybody is being considered whether or not they'll fit in with this culture. Everybody. The thing about being an older applicant is the word mentor. We have so much experience. We can save time and we can save money by not having those young people make the same mistakes that we did. We have all of this background. We know how to communicate. We know how to lead meetings. We know how to get the team together because we had to do more of that in our time. Whereas now things are a little bit more zoomy than before. But if we sell our knowledge, our experience, and we love mentoring young people, we don't want them to make the mistakes we did, that's what's going to sell you.
Yeah, so showing that you can help others benefit from your life experiences,
Absolutely.
that would be good.
Absolutely.
I think we also, just to add to that, I think we need to be aware of what I call verbal cushions. And I've talked about these for years, but something you would say or do that would show respect for the question, allow people to drop their defenses and give you time to think about what you're going to say. Because if they if they kind of ask the question or you infer that they're going to challenge you on age issues without saying you're old, you don't want to fight back and start preaching to them.
No.
So a cushion could be, hey, I've had that question asked before, and it's a valid one. Let me address that. Here's what I see the value being for someone with my experience, and then tell that story, but do it in a consultative way and not in a, oh boy, here we go again. I'm going to have to sit you down and tell you how it's going to be because listen, I've been around the block. You have to convey you're there to help and not necessarily to come in and run the show and tell everybody how great you are and why your background is perfect. So
Not
those are things.
verbiage, but with your body language also.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because as soon as you hear that question, if all of a sudden your mouth goes down and you sit back, you're showing them there's the defense right there.
Yep. So those are some things to do for the millennials and also for the baby boomers, the boomers to be. But a lot of the job hunt, I compare to sports and dating. Sports because it's competitive and we want to practice good habits so that when the game is on, we perform well. But also dating because it's very subjective. And so Cindy, you really touch on what I'll call the dating component, the likability, the perception that we have of people when we talk with them, when we see them. And it's like, I think it's so important. And I wish we could bottle you and, put it in people's brains because so much of that job hunt isn't just, hey, I have 10 years experience or I have this or I have that. So we've got just a few moments left. Anything, I guess if you had to say, were there a three things that you just see or hear throughout your professional coaching that you just cringe and you go, how did you get to be where you are? Is there anything that stands out? A couple things you just kind of laugh at?
Oh yeah, the clothing.
Okay.
The clothing keeping the hair out of the face so that you can completely see the face, regardless of what the hairstyles are out there in the world. I know you have such a trouble with that, Randy. And then it's speaking to someone with respect, showing that respect in so many ways.
Cool.
Sounds like a plan. So yeah, I think Teddy, we're going to wrap up now, but Cindy, if you can hang around, we've got just a few minutes left. But how can people reach you if they would like to get in touch with you? And Teddy, if you would put that in the show notes as well, that way people can reach out to you if they needed to.
They can reach me all over the place. I am on all of social media, so please feel free to find Sindy with an S, Sindy Martin, and I'm on LinkedIn. And I try to share a lot of smarten up tips of what I've talked about today.
Yeah.
And it's Sindy at Smartin Up, Smartin, SMARTIN -UP.com, smartinup.com. And that's from my name, Sindy Martin.
She's pretty smart, Teddy.
I know. You told me
a creative genius.
You know, Sindy, thank you very much for joining Randy and I today. We really appreciate it. And so here's my closing remarks. I met Sindy years ago, and back then I was trying to pay attention to this professionalism and etiquette stuff, and I've gotten more aware of the importance of it over the years. So I've written an edict that I follow, and the edict is this: never do, say, or engage in any way that you don't want to be seen, heard, or perceived of in life. And I can say that in the positive. Always do, say, and engage in ways that you want to be seen, heard, and perceived of in life. And for me, that's a Teddyism that speaks to what Cindy's been teaching me for the years that we've known each other and what she's shared here today. It's all about being the right professional, and it's all about being using etiquette in the right way so that your brand precedes you in every step.
Right.
Randy, anything?
Well, again, because I prepare so thoroughly, I'm making this up as I go. But I digress. Some things we didn't touch on that deal with etiquette, professionalism. One is thank you notes and cover letters. Going that extra mile.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Email and thank you note.
Correct. When it comes to a thank you note, an email is good. Do that when you get home. Have something in there that speaks to the discussion that piqued your interest. Don't just say, oh, it's a pleasure to meet you, excited about the opportunity, and I hope to hear from you. If you do nothing, okay, if you do that and only that, at least you did something. Yeah. But why not talk briefly about something that piqued your, like you said, about cleaning the ocean or about the new products coming out. You could also use that as an opportunity to clarify something that perhaps was a little fuzzy when you gave the answer, and you get in your car and you go, oh, I should have said that. Well, now you have the opportunity, but also send a handwritten note.
Yes.
We do, and you've been part of these panel discussions, and at every panel discussion, I ask how valuable are thank you notes? And how many, what's the percentage of workers that actually send one? And you've heard them, they say maybe a third.
Yes.
Maybe a third, and that's it, professional and down to hourly. So
correct.
If only a third of the workers are bothering to even do an email, let alone a handwritten one, just think of how powerful that is and how much leverage and how much you can help elevate yourself just through simple etiquette. Handwrite it, put it in the mail. It's a second touch. So the email goes that day, the letter or the card, the thank you card, and I've got them here in my super secret vault here off of my left shoulder. But I have thank you cards. Put a little, it's a stamp. You don't have to lick it anymore, which is nice, but boom, you put it on there and you send it. It's an amazing, small, but it's an amazing bump that it'll give you, I think, as they begin to look and go, who wants this? Those are some things to think about. And one other point about the etiquette piece, and I just had this talk, and I've had this talk more often than I care to mention, Teddy, and you know where I'm going to go with this. LinkedIn, customized invitation.
Yeah.
How often do you just get what I call a generic invite with no accompanying text? They don't tell you how they met you, why they want to connect, and why I should care. And if I'm trying to make a good first impression, probably not the way to do it. So take the time, customize your invitation. If you need help with that, Teddy and I, we deal with this stuff all the time. We're happy to help you. We're free. But we want you to put your best foot forward. And that's why we're so happy that we've had Sindy Martin on here today. And Sindy, I know we save this till near the end. So I'm going to wait till the end about this faux pas. But before we do, is there anything that we have? I know we need to talk next week's show.
I got it.
So you got it. All right. So
When we do,
Randy, faux pas.
we'll get to the faux pas here in just a second. The last thing.
Get to that. So, so next week we have Marsha Davis Cannon. Now, Marsha is a career coach, and her conversation next week is really going to be pretty interesting. And the title is Strengthening Resilience During Career Search. Marsha and I were talking about different topics we can bring to the group, and she felt a real calling to focus on this conversation about resilience and strengthening our resilience because it's tough. And so we're really looking forward to that. So those of you who can, join us next week, and please invite your friends, family, and maybe your neighbor to come join us because there's plenty of seats, and we love to help people with these ideas.
Yeah,
so
we
Randy,
do.
You want to share with us your faux pas that you had with Sindy that she schooled you on?
Yeah. Well, here's the setup. I don't know how somebody introduced us through LinkedIn or through, say, you need to talk to Randy or you need to talk to Sindy. And so we decided to get together for lunch. And so here I am going to sit with the etiquette queen. So I bothered to, put a clean shirt on. And so here we are at the restaurant. We had lunch and we chatted. It was very cordial, very pleasant. We got done. So I basically said, so how did I do? And you said, what'd you say? Do you remember?
He did great. He really did. He did great with one exception. And that is, pretend like this is a plate. Your knife should never touch the table and the plate at the same time. Your knife should always go on the back of your plate with the blade facing inward, never outward. So his knife was touching the plate and the table at the same time.
And where I was raised, I never knew that I didn't know it. And in part, I bring it up in part just to be silly and fun. It's a true story. But it brings up a bigger point that we don't know what we don't know. And if we weren't taught certain etiquette points, we weren't taught certain things in life in general, if we didn't know that they exist, how are we going to be accountable for them? And so that's why on our program, we like to bring in people who can add value to you if you're a job hunter. And whether it's help with the resume, help with interviewing, help with whatever, in this case, it's the presentation skills. I guarantee you there are probably things, if you watched the entire show today, that you didn't really realize were important or didn't even know existed. But now you do. And armed with that, I think you can do a better job of helping present yourself during the interview and hopefully land that next job. So very important. Again, Sindy, thank you so much for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Teddy, until we meet again, sir. Next week, same time, same channel, 12 noon on Wednesday.
So again, Sindy, thank you very much. Randy, good seeing you, buddy. And we will talk another day.
All right. Take care, folks.